Does the NBA have a problem that needs to be resolved? And are dynasties actually a thing anymore? Bart Winkler joins us to give his thoughts coming up next on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I'm Justin Garcia. You can find me on the Bucks Radio Network. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. The NBA season is now over. We get 2-day grace period between the season ending and basically the new season starting with the draft, and a lot of things to touch on that we briefly mentioned on yesterday's show. And I figured no one better to bring in when it comes to this next topic here than my old pal Bart Winkler. I saw you made some offhand comments similar to what we are about to get into here, but you and I were talking about it as well. This was an interesting season and playoffs as a whole because fans have complained about ESPN and the product for a long time now, but it does kind of feel like this may be the impetus for change when you have two new broadcast partners coming in. Very, very reactionary decisions made by Adam Silver that it just feels like number one, Adam Silver seems to be the most online commissioner in sports, in that we may be headed to a point where it's, hey, I better change something because people are apparently not happy.
I don't feel like anyone on the whole is happy. Like with this playoff, the playoff run was good. There were really good games. There were very intriguing storylines. There were moments that will go down forever. And I don't feel like anyone is happy. Adam Silver doesn't seem happy. The Thunder won, and they seem like, well,
it's another game.
Hey, we won another game. The injuries are mounting up. No one's happy about that. It was a 2 weeks finals that got overshadowed.
It was 18 days. It was almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, but every day there was something new to overshadow it. Whether it was the Knicks trying to talk to every coach that's already got a job, whether it was a Desmond Bane trade, which turned into crime statistics about the city of Memphis leading sports shows on the network that has the coverage. And then Kevin Durant gets traded.
The Lakers sold.
Durant gets traded while he's conveniently at Fanatics Fest, this partner of – it's just 2 weeks where – and then you get the draft in a couple days. So it's 2 weeks where the NBA Finals kind of served as like the backdrop to all the other stuff we could talk about. And whether we want to shorten the season now and then we're talking about the All-Star game during the finals. It's like, who is happy? And I with Adam Silver, him and Kevin Durant, I think have the same affliction. Where if Silver was the commissioner from 80 to 94 and Kevin Durant played from 1980 to 1994, I think they'd be totally different people. But they are so centered on everything that's said about them. They're so terminally online and reactionary. And it's not ruining, but it's hurting the product.
I should be careful as somebody that collects a check from a team within the league that reports to Adam Silver, but
why'd you have me on?
Boy, yeah, I tell you what, not to get sidetracked, nothing tops the time I had you on the team program to get your thoughts on what was happening in the league and with the team. But I never thought I'd say this. Do you long for the days of David Stern?
I long for the days where everything isn't the biggest nothing something ever. Like it's just always remember Adam Silver when the East scored 200 points in the All-Star game. And he goes, well, you scored 200 points. Congratulations. And he just gives the trophy. Like, you're supposed to be at least – commissioners have a weird job because we all think as fans that they're like –
they're the media.
For us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what the commissioner does, and the reason like Roger Goodell keeps getting more money all the time, is because he is a shield for the shield. When people are mad at the owners, he steps in, he can be the guy. That's where the deflection goes. But at least you feel like with all the, money chasing that they do and splintering up of their TV contracts and trying to put these teams in Europe or whatever, you feel like Goodell still enjoys football.
Yeah. And
for Adam Silver, it's fair to question if that's true for his sport.
I mean, you brought up all the events that happened during the finals, some of which I even forgot about, which again speaks to how long the finals itself went on. It's nothing new. It's what, 20 years with this schedule where you try to maximize the TV nights, but it's also absurd to have a series that goes 7 games and lasts 18 days. And we're talking about all these events that happened, but even things like the most recent ones, the Lakers getting sold. I mean, that trumped all the news coverage. But Kevin Durant getting traded, if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't tear his Achilles in Game 7, you put yourself in a spot where you have a Game 7, something that has been very rare for a championship in this sport. And yet instead, because one of the biggest stars in your sport is traded hours before that game, it sets you up for the moment the game ends. The discourse immediately shifts to, what does this mean for the West? Who else is going to get traded? Who's the next player there? And we've just completely moved on. And oh, by the way, the fact that as we mentioned at the top of the show, your draft is 2 days later, which, again, you can't really compare it to the NFL and other sports because this is what, a 9-month sport all in for basketball. But the fact that you wrap up a series and then 2 days later, it's on to the draft. And here's the next story, that you just leave no room for any of this to breathe. And I think that's the big issue. I mean, the broadcast partners are one thing, but that's how we've gotten into this culture where we just move on to what's the next story instead of appreciating what's happening on the court.
Like, when do the Thunder have their parade? Like, on the way home from the stadium that night because they got to get into the draft room in the next couple days? There's other things that these other leagues do where they at least freeze the trade periods. And if there was ever, if there was like, oh, by the way, the Yankees are going to be sold, and it was Game 5 of the World Series, Manfred would at least be like, can we just
maybe let's hold off on that? Hey, the Green Bay Packers are going to be owned by an individual for the first time ever, and we're going to announce that 3 hours before kickoff of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, can we just move? Like, let this, because the 18 days. I don't, if you're building it up right, I don't know that it's the worst thing, but there's no like, there's no, who are these players? Like, with 18 days, there's got to be ways to show us more about these players on different programs or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like, and I don't want to make this all about the TV networks that cover the product, but they're major culprits in this. They've been it's not just like you and me here are saying something. It's not just like somebody on, an FS1.
Yeah, I know at least 3 other people that have said the same. So we got a decent amount here. Time to talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money. If you've ever checked your bank account and had to wonder, where did all my money go? You think about dining out, online shopping, and entertainment. It gets easy to lose track of those things. And that's where Monarch Money comes in as your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's because Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just messaging your money and start building wealth. You'll learn surprising insights like how much you're spending on fast food delivery weekly and monthly. That'll help you budget smarter and save more money. And if you're managing money with a partner, it's now smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com to score half off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. Get 50% off your first year. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need. Maybe you needed a plumber on the go. Well, if that person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You move on to the next name on the list. That's why you need Open Phone. They're the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. They let you manage your business calls and texts from a single app. You get a shared inbox feature that proves to be a game changer, where your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. And their AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. Open Phone is offering our listeners 20% off for your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Yeah, but it's the whole, the fact that you can't have what's wrong with the NBA right now? Why do these playoffs? Without you have to mention Stephen A. Smith. He is a part of the story. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why is this happening at all? And why is it happening now? It's just I think what we long for, because now NBC is coming back with the coverage. What are we longing for? I don't think we're necessarily longing for round ball rock. I don't think we're necessarily longing for the style of play in the 90s. Because sometimes, you watch today's basketball and you're like, no good. But then you go watch a game in the 90s and you're like, ugh. So I don't know
how many Achilles injuries we saw in the 90s, though. So
yeah, I don't know how many hospital rings were given out in the 90s either. I think what we're longing for is where the NBA felt like the NBA was prestigious or important, or it had pride in the product that it was giving you, instead of looking for ways to take the Giannis, I'll just say, situation. Okay. The Giannis situation. Ever since it was realized that, this guy might be good, it was, well, how do we get him out of Milwaukee? On the networks that carry the NBA, TNT, ESPN, how do we get him out of Milwaukee? So it's constantly, I don't know how many times he had to re-sign his name as an extension to stay. I don't know how many different things he had to say. I can't tell you the amount of people that I've talked to when I do interviews. And I'm like, Giannis, this is going to be 2019, 2022. Giannis will re-sign. And then they'll tell me later, like, Bart, I'm sorry, but this, like, Giannis to the Heat,
it's a done deal.
I didn't want to break your heart on air, but it's like a done deal. Giannis to the West Coast. I mean, you're going to find, and I'm like, dude, I'm here. Okay. I'm not seeing any of that. And then a report comes out from Shams, who's like, even this week again, is trying to fanfic his way out of here. He's like, okay, for the first time, it makes sense that for the first time, well, what was the last 8 years?
Did you see the one today?
Yes.
I'm sure there's conversations taking place right now behind the scenes that we're unaware of. Like,
why?
Thank you for that reporting and insight.
Yeah, there's probably people calling John Horst saying, what can I get for? And he's like, okay, not really, whatever. And the trade offers now, you see what Desmond Bane goes for, and the Giannis offers are like, people will propose offers as if Milwaukee needs to do another team a favor. And he's been here forever. He's an international brand. I'm 9K. My parents were just in a gas station somewhere in Alabama. They were driving up from Florida. And there's a giant, my mom took a picture with it. It's a giant, 7-foot Giannis cutout of some product. And I don't know if it's a current endorsement or an old one, but you don't need to be in New York City, to be a superstar. And then when I say stuff like this, I'll mention, because he's on my network and I've had this conversation. Huh? You're
a homer. You don't get it.
Yeah, you're right. I'll mention this because I've talked to him about this. He's on my network, Bill Ryder, CBS Sports, Infinity Sports Network. I asked him on the air as a general like general. I'm like, Bill, I'm just trying to understand. Why does this happen? Why is this the way that it is? I can't figure it out. And people are so mean about it. Why are they so mean about it? First, he thought I was attacking him personally. I'm like, Bill, I'm asking you a question on behalf of all media. And then he says, it's closer than it's closer than you think. And I'm like, Bill, I see this superstar. Him and my kid are in the same swim lessons thing. Okay. I see him once every 2 weeks and no one bothers him. And he's like in the pool swimming with his kid. And he like walks in and walks out and just like is Giannis. But he's not. He's just that kid's dad. Where else is he going to be traded where he's that kid's dad? He's going to be traded. He's going to be treated like royalty. I don't know that he wants that anymore. No, Bart. There's a video of him in New York City that was from 5 years ago. Figure it out. It's just, I'm sweating.
Okay, there's some follow-ups on that. Also, quite a flex to throw out your living arrangement that your next door neighbors with Giannis too. But there's some other takeaways.
That was not part of the story.
You had
we meet halfway.
And the Thunder winning and what that means for the go forward here and dynasty views. We'll get into that conversation coming up next. Just to finish your point by Bill Ryder, I mean, in fairness, if there's a 10% chance that Giannis would get traded, I mean, that is more than you would think. So he may have a point there. But yeah, it's one of those things that I've struggled with.
Something's going to happen every summer.
It's when
it doesn't happen.
And
then it happens on the 10th time. You're not right.
Yeah.
Because you were wrong 9 times.
You just happened to back into this one. And I
don't want to speak on this too loudly because Giannis, I saw him mowing the lawn right next door. I don't want him to overhear.
This next segment of Locked On Bucks is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. You can track your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. You get fast payouts as well. Makes regular season games feel like must-watch events. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Wow, even more down to earth than we imagined. It's one of the things that I've struggled with too, in that, look, some of the things that I've picked up on, and just we've all observed the type of guy that he is, where you're like, I don't want to be too naive and say, well, it's different here. And he really, has gravitated to that and appreciates it. But it is for the, the situation that you laid out too, where think about how many people have come across Giannis where I saw Giannis go into Greek Fest or at the State Fair. And yeah, people took pictures and a few went up to him, but it was, there's Giannis, let him be. You're not getting that in any other market that you go to. The other part too is, a lot has changed with the organization, but there is a great deal of appreciation and loyalty that he still holds for the Bucks because of what they did to help his family. And a lot of it had to do with Senator Cole, but to help his family get over here. Those aren't things you just throw away. And I think the larger part of it all is, what's the better situation out there, right? Like there's maybe 2 teams that make sense. One you can cross off the list now.
But I think even with this whole conversation, it's not just people in Milwaukee griping about the national media and the situation that's here. It's that what would be celebrated in every other sport is like admonished in this sport by the people that have the biggest platforms to cover it. You would never turn on NFL Network and then talk about how, man, Patrick Mahomes has to get out of Kansas City. You know, Josh Allen has to get out of Buffalo. You would never turn on stuff like that. Even the coverage of the sports is different. The NBA, the NFL, like there are shows that break down plays. The NBA is just like transactional jersey swap. We got to get back. We got to get out. That's what people long for. That's what the 90s had. The 90s had rivalries that built, and it felt like a big time matchup. And you didn't have all this player movement. You didn't have a guy like Kevin Durant who could just go wherever social media told him to go the next day. You didn't have that kind of stuff. Social media is a big problem. The coverage is a big problem. Our nostalgia is maybe a problem, but it's also right.
The closest comparison would probably across sports would be for a while, I suppose, when is Mike Trout going to leave the Angels? But I mean,
that was because they were bad.
Yeah, it's because they're bad. And also it's no longer at that level that basketball is in terms of its wide appeal. It's more of a regional sport.
It'd be like, when is Giannis going to leave the Bucks if the Bucks were, 35-win team every year?
Yeah, back to where they were the 90s and 2010s. Yeah.
Yeah, then you're not asking it from a place of, this guy is like with the Pirates, Paul Skeens. They're wasting Paul Skeens. That's not even about get him to a bigger market. That's how do you have this guy and not utilize this guy? Baseball, even though they have a no salary cap really, and you can freely spend more than you can in the NBA, when the conversations come like that, it's more of a situation of get this guy to a team that wins, because Mike Trout, I don't think he's still won a playoff game in his career, because I think they made it and got swept. But the NBA, and this is something that David Stern did enact. This is a 5-team league, and this is a 12 superstar league. And so I think one of the reasons why we got to this point with this series, Thunder and Pacers, where it was good basketball, was you spent no time building it up, because the NFL right now could have any two cities. Detroit could play Cleveland in a Super Bowl, and we'd be like, oh, wow. Thunder play the Pacers. You don't hardly know anything about them, even though the Thunder, we all knew they would win a title within a certain amount of time, but there was no buildup of the Thunder. The Pacers last year got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we were all too busy making fun of them for being frauds. We didn't do anything to build up these teams. And even like other teams that you could build up right now, maybe a Memphis, that Memphis-Orlando trade, instead of, hey, look at Orlando in an open East, they've got like their perfect missing piece. That conversation got pushed out of the way for the crime statistics about a city in Tennessee on a sports show on the network that airs the NBA Finals.
Because players are not living in gated communities in Memphis, clearly, and are not given the advantages that the rest of us would have. So it's certainly going to be an issue and a big concern there for those guys, which was those things too. I mean, it goes back to this series. How many things do we hear about what makes the Thunder great? Like that's the problem the league has, is there's so much advanced stats that it's where baseball was starting to get 15, 20 years ago, when we started to hear about WAR and Bill James was becoming more of a guy that everybody knew of. Moneyball comes out, that now it's reaching that point where you can't go anywhere without hearing net rating and their fourth quarter net rating. And here's this, and here's the amount of passes that they have. But if you just asked a casual fan, what makes the Thunder good, I don't think anybody could give you the answer. I don't think anybody could give you the answer for the Indiana Pacers. They maybe have heard of Tyrese Halliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but that's it. And there's nothing done to shine a light on what makes these teams good, opposed to just Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a foul merchant. And boy, you wonder if the Thunder are the next dynasty to come from, which is the other. Why do we do this to ourselves every single year? The Thunder are set up to be a dynasty now, where we have this conversation every year, and yet we've had 7 champions in the last 7 years.
Well, and now in the NBA, I think, the answer to that question is they might have a better shot.
Sure.
Because they have more assets.
But your window is 3 years in this league, basically.
Which I think is, I don't like that.
I hate it. And the irony,
and the Thunder are going to get punished. It's what they wanted to do was not let Kevin Durant join Steph Curry.
They did this because the Warriors won a title again in 2022, and Steve Ballmer was willing to spend whatever it takes. That's why we got this CBA. And the irony being, the Thunder were the only team that voted against this, and now they're going to be victimized by it. Probably not next season, but next summer, they're going to have to pay Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. Shai's going to be due for that extension. They're right back in the same spot as everyone else.
Right, which they're getting punished for trying to build a contender the right way. And I like, if you're all these teams that got bounced, like even the Cavs, you think, all right, well, next year we'll add you can't. And the whole reason this Bucks situation is as fragile as it might be is because there's so many limitations to what you can do. And then the Lakers, we're going to spend a bunch of money. Okay, well, you can't do like 9 different things because the cap rules are insane. One thing that when doing sports radio, I didn't realize how much I need to know about like muscles. Like the fact that I know what a trapezius is because Ryan Braun. But then the fact that you have to know what second apron means and, talking about mid-level exemptions. And I think the more, here's a theory I'm testing. The more abbreviations you throw at the average fan, the more like they know what batting average is. Okay, fine. I'll figure out OBP. Okay, fine. But then it's like, well, now you got to know like runs created plus. Screw it. NBA, it's like, I know points per game. I know
effective field goal percentage.
Yeah, now you got to know. You got to know net rating. You got to know like net rating to what? What's I don't know. And then with the salary cap, it's like there should be, hey, you can spend this much, and if you spend more than this, then you got to pay some money. Okay, well, now we actually have 4 different layers, and then there's different things you can't do, and then you can't aggregate salaries. That shouldn't be a word in the normal sports fans' vocabulary. It's too much, and so that overall dampens the product too.
I mean, think about how many times you have either said or heard somebody utter the phrase triggers the blank apron, or you're hard capped at the blank apron if you do this. Like in the last 18 months, where that's the other thing that's exhausting to try to figure out, well, wait a minute, what is a first apron? What is a second apron? What does this mean? What's a biannual exception? How come the Bucks, what do bird rights mean? And why can they retain guys with this? That it's just become exhausting on that front too. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Thunder and this dynasty approach, but also the Eastern Conference, because it has now been confirmed. We all have eyes. We could assume it's what it was, that Tyrese Haliburton did in fact tear his Achilles. So what that means for the Bucks going forward, and what it means as a whole for the league, that we've seen 3-star players suffer this injury in the playoffs. We'll get to that next. So just, really quick, I picked the Pacers to win the series going into the finals just because I felt like they don't have a weakness. The Thunder are clearly an elite defense, and they were the best team start to finish. But the Pacers had a good defense, good offense, and we saw firsthand what they could do. So I stuck with that.
It's almost guaranteed they win.
Haliburton
it's almost guaranteed. Hurt. He was feeling it, no pressure. Thunder seemed a bit like playing scared.
We're not ready for this moment yet. Yeah, and look, are they positioned to be a quote unquote dynasty? I suppose, yeah, more than any team we've seen recently win it with their age. But as we just mentioned, it's going to come calling for you. And this is the system the league wants. You don't want dynasties. If you're doing this CBA and this approach, you want teams to enter saying every single team feels like they have a chance. The funny part of that is, 30 years ago, that's all we wanted here in Milwaukee. And now that you finally have one of those guys, you level the playing field and say, well, wait a minute, this isn't what we were told the league was going to be or what the rules were going to be. So I think that's the tough part for the Bucks to grapple with. But you've already seen so much too of like, is this team set up better than any other to win now and in the future? Like, are we in any sport in the history of sports, like we're conveniently forgetting about the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s or the 49ers or the Edmonton Oilers winning 4 straight championships? Like, it's without fail every year the discourse is who's going to get traded, and this team that won, are they a dynasty?
Even in hockey with the Panthers winning twice.
We're back to back.
That's back to back. Dynasty, you need
3 straight trips.
Yeah. Dynasty, I think you need 3 and like a 4, maybe a 5. If you get to one and lose, because the Chiefs are like, but then you look at the Bulls and they won 3 in a row twice.
Yeah.
The Patriots kind of had 2 separate dynasties.
Are the Spurs?
I don't know. It was. I'm trying to figure out too with you, like why isn't one good? we beg these guys to get one, and then as soon as they get one, it's like get 2, and then LeBron's like, this ring culture. Did you not go chase rings in Miami?
Why did you say in Cleveland?
This ring culture, get me out of Cleveland. So I don't understand it either with dynasties.
I mean, the other thing that's going to come from this is, well, they got a problem with these injuries. I mean, yeah, but how do you fix it? And like,
the shortened schedule topic is going to come up, which
yeah, but what is that? I think it should be. Although, if we do shorten the schedule, I would advocate to move away from paid per game and just a flat fee for the season. But I think the schedule certainly should be shortened. But I mean, also, I don't know that it's the direct correlation of the season's too long, and that's why these guys got injured in the playoffs. But if anything is going to prompt Adam Silver, as you talked about his reactionary measures, looking into changing anything, it's losing not just 3 guys, but 3 stars in the playoffs, and one of them in the deciding game of your championship series.
Well, yeah, and I think, too, maybe there's too much being thrown at them, or they're trying to figure out too many, like NBA Cup. What even is that? It didn't even get brought up once.
We got more time to soak in and celebrate the NBA Cup championship than the Thunder are going to get to celebrate an NBA championship.
And then even when they lost the game to the Bucks, they were on like an 18-game winning streak or something, but they weren't because they lost to the Bucks.
And then afterwards, too, the Thunder only lost 1 game to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
No, actually.
And then this in-season tournament, or I confuse them all.
The NBA Cup.
The play-in tournament.
Oh.
So you can get the Bulls a chance to get an extra game after their annual 39-43 season. And what are you trying, like, what you're trying to do with these things is make the regular season more exciting, because the regular season does get bogged down because it is so long. And then because it's so long, instead of trying to solve the problem, which would be, hey, shorten it a little bit, you're trying to add things to make it more exciting, when you're just like, it's that I just feel like Adam Silver, you don't need to present to the boss every idea that comes into your head.
All right, as you can see and hear, a lot to say from Bart, a lot to get into here with overall where the league is headed, some thoughts on the Bucks off season as well. So we're going to carry this over into a part 2. That'll come out later today. 2 episodes in one day with myself and Bart Winkler. So be on the lookout for that episode just after this one drops. That'll do it for today's part 1. talk to you on part 2 coming up momentarily on Locked On Bucks.